Well, hello everybody. It's been a while. And hello and welcome back to Raw Law Unfiltered with your host, none other than the DUI Guy Plus. Today we're going to be diving into a project that I have long had since had my sights on. And for one reason or another, it just kept getting delayed. Nothing to do with anything other than the simple precept of life, if you will. But today we're finally going to undertake this massive undertaking, which should take no less than at least, I imagine, 16 days. So probably 16 streams worth of um, content is going to come from this. My goal is to break down each day into a separate stream, and there were a total of 16 days. So we'll see. Maybe we're going to be able to combine them a little bit, but I do also want to keep it flowing kind of nice and easy, cohesive, coherent, cogent, so that people are not being left like hanging um, in the middle of like a day, so we're like, let's say we finish day one and we still have a little bit of time. We start day two and now we're in the middle of day two. And then the next day, let's say we continue the stream and it's like, all right, where did we leave off? And it's like, we're on page, whatever. I think for the simplicity's sake, we should be able to do basically like a stream per day of court. And that way, even if we leave off and I don't do a stream for like a day or two or something like that, we're still going to be able to catch up accordingly. And we're not going to be trying to find the place where we left off. And you're more than welcome to follow along. I probably should have done this before I did this stream, but it's okay. I can add it. Actually, I can probably add it right now. But the court transcripts are public record. They are available if you want to follow along. I mean, of course, I'm going to have it on the screen, but if you want to follow along, reading it on your own, I'm going to be adding the link to the website that is hosting the transcripts themselves. There we go. That has officially been added to the description directly below. So you're more than welcome to follow along. Yeah, this is going to be a biggie. And I'm both excited and nervous at the same time. I mean, I'm normally not nervous about things like this, but it's like it happened in the UK and I'm an attorney here in the US. I know I'm going to fuck something up. I know I'm going to say, I'll be like, you're not allowed to do this. And some UK attorney is going to be like, yeah, you are. In the UK, we can do this. And I'll be like, well, shit. So I'm looking forward to being corrected on certain matters, but I'm sure there's a lot of overlap. I know there's a lot of overlap with the US and UK systems. And I'm also looking forward to all the corruption that we are going to find, that I envision are layered within this 2,650, I think, or like 2,250 pages of content. So yes, you heard that correctly. We have over 2,000. For some reason, I thought it was like 25,000 at one point, but I think I was counting the pages at the end, which are the glossary and the key and everything. So I just didn't. I forgot about those, to be completely honest. So it's still a massive. So by the way, when those amber stands are like, well, I have read all of the transcripts from the jury trial or from the trial in the UK, and you'd be like, oh, so you read 2,500 pages worth of information. You can't even read my tweets without making a mistake. How the fuck are you going to read 2,500 pages worth of information, digest it, understand it, and be able to just forget about it? When they start yapping, like opening their mouths, going like, well, now you have a response like, fuck you, go to Larry's channel and you'll see there's like 16 at least in the future streams where we digested this. And it's going to take no less than like 40 hours, okay? 40 hours of reading it out loud, which silently, what, 30 hours reading it to yourself? Yeah, they don't have 30 hours because they're always busy like bashing Johnny Depp on Twitter. They don't have time for that shit. So anyway, let's dive into it. Let's have some fun. I'm going to try and add as much humor to this depressing case as I possibly can. We are going to enjoy ourselves. We're going to have some fun. We are going to dive right in. Let's go. Okay. Here it is. We have to teleport back in time. We turn on your time machines, your time capsules, whatever you have to do. We are going back to July 7th, 2020. In the High Court of Justice, Queen's Bench Division, that's how you know it's the UK. The Queen is mentioned right there at the top. Media and Communications List of Royal Courts of Justice, Strand, it's in London. Tuesday, the 7th of July, right in the smack dab of the pandemic. Everybody was asleep except for this case. Tuesday, July 7th, 2020, and we're before Mr. Justice Nicol. And the case is between John Christopher Depp II, who is the claimant, and he's suing News Group Newspapers Limited, which is more commonly and aptly known, as you all know it, as The Sun, and Dan Wootton, which, by the way, speaking of Dan Wootton, y'all may remember he got into some hot scuffles recently, if you all have been following along. So that was a little crazy, but whatever. We don't have to talk about that right now. Okay. You have a couple of attorneys, David Sherborne and Eleanor Laws, as well as Kate Wilson. They're appearing for Johnny Depp. And Sasha Was, Adam Wolanski, and Clara Hamer. I hope I'm pronouncing all those names correctly. Appearing on behalf of the defendants, the Sun and Mr. Wootton. And here we go, the proceedings, day one. Mr. Justice Nichols opens by saying, before the trial begins, I want to say a few words by way of introduction. This is the trial of the libel action which Johnny Depp, the second claimant, usually known as Johnny Depp, has brought against News Group Newspapers Limited, the publishers of The Sun, and journalist Daniel Wootton. There are some features which the trial will have that are the same as any other trial. There are others which are necessarily different. That's interesting. Okay. First, the features which are common to other trials. The trial is by judge alone. There is no jury. Right there. I mean, out of the gate. Out of the gate. This is by judge, not by jury. There is no jury. It will be for me, Nicol J., as the judge, to make any necessary findings of fact and rule on any issues of law. Next, it will be important for there to be silence when witnesses give their evidence and when the barristers are making their submissions, naturally so. Next, as with all trials in England and Wales, there will be no photography of anyone in court. Now, that's fascinating. That's fascinating that England does not allow photography, which means no video, no audio, probably no still photographs. Kind of like federal court here in the US. But that's where it all begins. Our legislation prohibits the taking of both still and moving pictures or sketching. Sketching is even forbidden in England. Wow. Of anyone while in court. So that's where it differs with our federal court system. We at least allow sketches. That includes screenshots. How do you screenshot a courtroom without, I don't know, whatever. Okay, I guess the judge is just trying to cover his bases. The law also prohibits sound recordings, there it is, of the court proceedings. So wow, nothing has been recorded except these transcripts. That's insanity. Disregarding these restrictions can be contempt of court and can lead to imprisonment. Like, they're not even hesitating. He's just like, you do this, I will throw you in jail. There will be an official audio recording of the trial, and anyone may purchase a transcript. Because it is important that the evidence can proceed without distraction, all mobile phones should be switched to silent. Anyone may take notes of the hearing as it continues. Journalists, but only journalists, may report live by Twitter or other similar live text platforms. Okay, that's interesting. That's how it was different from the trial in Virginia, where we couldn't even live tweet, no matter if you're a journalist, a non-journalist, whatever. And by the way, what is the definition of a journalist? Like, it's been so vastly modified, modified over the last few months and years. So that's crazy. That is crazy. I turn to the features of this trial, which are less usual. Okay. COVID-19 restrictions mean that social distancing must be observed in court. Currently, that requires that no one be less than 2 meters from anyone else. That severely limits the number of people that can be in this courtroom. Court 13, even taking into account the opening of the public gallery in this court, which has occurred. These limits mean that not even all the lawyers or representatives of the parties can be accommodated in this particular courtroom. For that reason, the court service has made a second courtroom available for the parties and their lawyers who cannot be accommodated in this room. For the most part, this trial is being conducted in public. Okay, I have to say something about that, because that already it's getting ridiculous. First off, we have restrictions on audio, restrictions on photos, restrictions on video, restrictions on audio recordings, restrictions on sketches. I think I said audio twice. That should only be 4. But we have restrictions on how many people can be in the courtroom. That's 5. We have restrictions on how many can sit next to, like, as close to each other as possible. But it's open to the public. Anybody can come in and watch. Are you kidding me? You have literally just, like, limited to such a narrow audience, and you're like, oh, yeah, but it's open to the public. Anybody can come in. Smells rotten. Smells rotten, like, right out of the gate. That means that in principle, I love that. The judge literally is calling himself out. In theory, if we were all ghosts and living on Mars, in theory, the press and the public are free to attend. Like, what the fuck? This is so stupid. However, even in normal times, the space in courtrooms sets a practical limit on the number of people that can be accommodated. Limitation after limitation after limitation, and then saying, oh yeah, but it's open, but it's not. But it's open, but it's not. Okay, great. Thank you, Judge. I can already smell it in the air. I'm sure you all can too. The COVID-19 restrictions have added a further practical dimension to these practical problems. So the court service has made 3 further spillover courtrooms available for the press and the public. Okay, all right. Finally, we have our first both literal and practical breathing room. We have spillover courtrooms that are available to the press and the public. That makes 4 spillover courtrooms, including this one, 5 in total. And I'm grateful to the court service for the efforts that they have made in this regard. So, okay, finally we get a little bit of a piece of, oh, and by the way, just for the record, anybody who's like spewing, like, this is a violation of our First Amendment. We're in England, so they don't have the First Amendment. So anybody who's just like, well, we got the right to bear arms and the right to arm bears, no, not in England. No, sorry. Nope, you can't. The spillover courtrooms will be linked to this one so that those in the other courtrooms will be able to see and hear everything that takes place in this room, what I shall call the principal courtroom. Logical. Again, I'm grateful to the court service for the efforts that they have made to put these arrangements in place. All 5 rooms will be treated as part of the court. Logical. There will be 1 or more ushers in each room. Makes sense. Keep everything smooth and operational. The restrictions which I have mentioned will apply just as much to those who are in the spillover courtrooms. I have said that most of the trial will take place in public. At an earlier hearing, I ruled that parts will be in private. Oh, that's curious. I guess we'll see when that happens. When those parts occur, the press and the public will be excluded, and only the parties and their lawyers may remain. Can't wait to see about what happened there. This is what we call foreshadowing. This is what we call foreshadowing. And now you guys are all on the hook. You guys have to find out what the hell happens, because I'm already like itching, trying to think like, what I wonder what page this is going to happen on, because this is fascinating. This is absolutely crazy. And we're going to have to see where that leads. What does that mean? Like, what are they going to do? Like, okay, pause proceedings, everybody out of the room, and then the lawyers and the judge like do some stuff. I can't wait to see what that is. I really can't. That's absolutely craziness. However, I have previously agreed that other witnesses may give evidence via video link. These are witnesses who live in the USA, the Bahamas, and Australia. The systems which have been set up mean that in each of the spillover courtrooms, their evidence can be seen and heard. The trial is expected to last 3 weeks. After today, we will start each day's hearing at 10 a.m. We will take an hour for lunch at about 1 p.m. We will finish at about 4:30 p.m. It may be necessary to have breaks in the middle of the morning and the afternoon, particularly if a witness has been giving evidence for a long time. But I will keep these under review. Even so, the timetable is likely to be tight. To save time, I have directed that the parties must set out their opening statements in writing instead of giving them orally. Copies of those statements will be available at the time when that party would normally deliver them orally. Likewise, the skeleton arguments in which each party sets out their outline of the case can be obtained from that party's solicitors, Schillings in the case of the claimant, Simons, Moorhead, and Burton in the case of the defendants. Neither the openings nor the skeleton arguments will refer to those parts of the trial that will take place in private. Interesting. Very interesting. So are we not going to be able to hear opening statements? Am I going to have to like find that in writing? That's going to be curious. How is that going to work out? Okay. Now, Mr. Sherborne. Now, again, Mr. Sherborne, I imagine, is for Johnny Depp. Yes, that's David Sherborne. He begins. I guess this is opening, right? I'm not exactly sure. I guess we're about to find out. May it please your lordship, I appear in this trial with Ms. Laws and Ms. Wilson, who sit in the jury box on behalf of the claimant Johnny Depp. My learned friends, Ms. Wass, who sits to my right, Mr. Wolanski, who sits behind Ms. Wilson in the jury box, and Ms. Hamer, who sits behind me to my right, appear for the defendants, News Group, Newspapers Limited, the publishers of the Sun newspaper, and its executive editor, Mr. Wooten. Can I begin with some housekeeping? As your lordship mentioned only moments ago, you have received skeleton arguments from both the claimant and the defendants, and you have also had opening statements from both sides. Okay, so that is on the judge's desk. I guess we're not going to see them here. As your lordship has said, those have been provided in writing as opposed to being delivered orally. Okay, can I turn then to the bundles? Your lordship will now have, I think, having physically turned to the bundles, 12 files which make up the trial. There have been extensive updates, and I trust your lordship and your lordship's clerk have had the opportunity to fit them in. I suspect that there may be more. These additions or replacements in the court bundle generally follow disclosure. I am not going to take your lordship through the additions, but I will say that obviously, if there is any assistance that we can provide, I am sure your lordship or your lordship's clerk will ask us to do so. It is right to say that there are some outstanding disputes about the bundle, as there always are disputes over legal stuff between lawyers, which I hope will be resolved without the need to trouble your lordship. Can I just raise two minor points about two documents just by way of an explanation? The first is the dramatis personae, some Latin, we're dropping some Latin terms, and I just say a few words about that. There has been a measure of disagreement about the description of a couple of individuals in that document. And the judge, Mr. Sherborne, if it is of any help, as I have been preparing for this case over a number of previous hearings, as you know, I've compiled for myself a running list of people who have been mentioned at various points in these documents. By all means, let me have anything that is agreed between the parties, but do not feel under any pressure to do so because, as I say, I've already been compiling my own list. Mr. Sherborne, I am very grateful for that, Judge. I suspect, without testing your lordship, that there are some names which have not arisen during the course of previous hearings. What I propose is this. It is a document that is in your lordship's bundle, and that is the only reason for mentioning it. We propose that where there is a disagreement, what I might call the competing versions of both sides have been included. This is just to explain to your lordship why you might find two different descriptions in relation to a number of individuals. The judge says, thank you. Mr. Sherborne continues. The second document is the trial timetable. Your lordship will appreciate that, particularly with a lengthy trial such as this, where there are a large number of witnesses, many of whom are giving evidence in another country with a different time difference by video length, there may be some allowance needed in terms of the slots which have been allocated to individual witnesses. We have provided your lordship's clerk with what we say is the most up-to-date timetable. I do not need to say anything more about that unless your lordship wishes to ask any questions about it. And Justice Nicol responds, well, the only thing I want to say about it, and it is really for you and for Ms. Wass, is that I am conscious that the trial needs to be fair to both parties. Hardy har har. With that in mind, it is important that time for particular witnesses does not spill over to the prejudice of hearing from other witnesses. I will therefore be looking with close attention to whether the time being allocated for particular witnesses is being exceeded. Mr. Sherborne responds, I'm very grateful for that indication. Before we leave the subject of documents, can I just raise one further matter, and that is the multimedia documents. I understand that your lordship's clerk has been provided with a one-off link, which has all the multimedia documents available through it. Hopefully, that is a useful way for your lordship to be able to listen to the recordings, for example, of new footage, which I'm sure your lordship will want to do. And the judge responds, well, I will, of course, do that. You ought to know, and again, Ms. Wass ought to know that in preparing for the trial, it has not been possible for me to either watch videos or listen to sound recordings for obvious reasons, as what the judge has is all on paper. So, if there are any particular matters that you wish to draw to my attention, please bear that in mind. Mr. Sherborne, I'm very grateful, he says. Your lordship will have seen that in our opening statement, and of course, if I had delivered it orally, I could have placed emphasis on it in front of your lordship in open court. But nevertheless, you will have seen that we have made reference to at least a number of recordings or images that we wanted your lordship to look at before the evidence began. I am not going to ask your lordship to pause now. Judge interrupts. No. Well, Mr. Sherborne, time is limited, and I have been able to devote quite a lot of time to preparing for this case, but it is not endless. Mr. Sherborne responds, and I understand that. One of the advantages, obviously, as your lordship knows, of trial by judge alone is that you have the opportunity, and I do stress if you wish to take it, to be able to either listen to recordings or look at images outside of the courtroom hours, which obviously makes the proceedings much quicker. I appreciate that places an additional burden on your lordship, but if I can just, as I say, point your lordship to our opening statements in which I have asked the court to consider perhaps 2 recordings, I would ask your lordship if you had the opportunity to do so, having read about it in the context of the opening statement to actually listen to it. That is all I'm going to say for now. And the judge says yes. Mr. Sherborne continues. Of course, one second, sorry. Mr. Sherborne continues. Of course, this is just one of the features where evidence is given by way of witness statements, as opposed to in chief, and that is why I ask. All I was going to say more about the multimedia documents is just to give your lordship some forewarning that at the end of the case, we will be providing you with a USB stick, which should, by that stage, have all the multimedia documents which the parties rely on, I guess. The reason why we do not do that as we go along is that it is not, as I understand it, consistent with social distancing to keep passing your lordship USB sticks, but we will do it at the end. Fair enough. I understand they're just trying to avoid any type of COVID issues at the time. Again, remember, this is literally the beginning of July 2020. COVID is in full swing. People are dying, and it's crazy. It's so remember the mentality of the people sitting in the courtroom as we go through this. Mr. Sherborne continues. So the judge says, "Thank you." Mr. Sherborne continues. "Can I come on then to what I call more substantive matters, so to speak, and that is the witness statements? Your lordship may have seen that Ms. Heard has provided 3 further witness statements since the last hearing recently. We had a 5th witness statement, and I think that was last weekend. A 6th witness statement was served on us on Sunday, that is 2 days ago, and a 7th witness statement was provided to us about midnight last night." Okay, wait, whoa. Hold on. So Amber's name is being dropped for the first time, and this is we're on page 9, page 10. Already, this is starting to smell really rotten. Really rotten. Remember, we don't have a jury. There is no independent body to analyze evidence. The judge, jury, and executioner, Justice Nickel, is sitting at the bench, and he's going to be listening to all of this evidence. In the meantime, in the background, Amber is writing all these, "This is my witness statement, blah, 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 submit to lawyers submit to the opposing lawyers, Johnny Depp's lawyers," and that is going to be eventually submitted to the court. Then she writes a 2nd, a 3rd, a 4th. Then she writes a 5th one that is submitted over the weekend. A 6th one is submitted 2 days before trial begins, and another one is literally submitted hours before the trial begins. And she can write whatever she wants. There is no limit because she's writing it in the comfort of her own home or a hotel or whatever. There's nobody that is overseeing these witness statements. There's nobody that is like making sure that the veracity, the truth of these statements is accurate. She can literally write whatever she wants. That is crazy. Not only that, she's submitting them 2 days before trial, 3 days before trial, 2 days before trial, 7 hours before trial is set to begin. That is insanity. Let's see where it goes. Even the lawyer says, Mr. Sherborne, "I have not even had an opportunity to consider this 7th witness statement of Ms. Heard, let alone take any instruction on it. I have read the 6th statement, but the same is true. I have not had the opportunity to take instructions on it. I will come back to those statements in a minute. As for the 5th witness statement by Ms. Heard, I was going to ask your lordship for permission to ask Mr. Depp a few questions about the 5th statement in chief, and I will explain in a moment and outline what those questions are that we say flow from the 5th witness statement, which of course was provided after Mr. Depp's witness statements were complete. It is a topic that Ms. Heard deals with in her 5th statement. It is a limited number of questions, and it is probably going to take about 5 to 10 minutes. But I will come back to that. See, even the lawyer is scrambling because he can't keep up with the information being thrown at him at the 11th hour, which is not how you do proceedings, at least in the US. This is right there. This is one huge difference I can tell you right now. When there's a deadline to complete what's known as discovery, right? Discovery is any evidence that you want to provide us with, you're more than welcome to. We will review it, and there is a cutoff date. So let's say trial is set for, I don't know, in this case, July 7th. The judge will set the cutoff date for discovery extremely early on. It would be like April 1st would be the cutoff for discovery. Now, the parties can move for an extension, and the court may grant it unless there's an objection, in which case it may deny the extension of time for either of the parties. But the problem is, when you're submitting evidence of a witness, in this case, remember, Amber is not a defendant. She's not a party. She is a mere witness because Johnny did not sue Amber in the UK. He sued the Sun and Dan Wooten and the company that owns the Sun. So that is critical information. But the problem is, again, evidence is being submitted hours, like when everybody is asleep. Like the seventh statement is submitted when everybody is in bed and they're going to wake up and they're going to have 30 minutes before court to have to read, digest, understand, and not even have time to ask questions of their own client about the information that is in this witness statement. And there's 7 of them. Again, something we don't do in the US that I see that they're doing in the UK is witness statements. I mean, we do them, but it's so rarely, so rarely. Only if a witness is going to be completely unavailable. That is unbelievable. But okay, as far as the 6th and 7th witness statements are concerned, it is a little unfortunate that they have arrived in this way. I completely agree. Given that they raise, as I understand it, new allegations. What? What? Okay, hold on. Pause. Time out. Time out. Hold on. So you're telling me that 7 hours before the trial, the bench trial of Johnny Depp versus The Sun is set to begin, Amber Heard is sitting in her hotel room, scribbling away and raising new issues that have not been raised for years prior, 7 hours before court is set to begin. What the fuck, bro? No, this is not okay. This is not how we conduct trials, okay? Excuse me. No. Given that they raise, as I understand it, new allegations, unpleaded allegations, and various different dates for already pleaded allegations, this has got to be a joke. Like, this is almost like a scene from a movie. And then the lawyer at the 11th hour will come up with like an excellent response to that. Unfortunately, we know that doesn't happen. Spoiler alert. But like, this is disgusting. This is completely disgusting. All right, let's continue. Not for the first time, we say. So, given that they raise, I have to read it again because I'm sorry, my brain just had a conniption. As far as the 6th, and I'm just going to start the paragraph all over because I can't believe it. I literally cannot believe what I'm reading. As far as the 6th and 7th witness statements are concerned by Ms. Amber Heard, it is a little unfortunate that they have arrived in this way, given that they raise, as I understand it, new allegations, unpleaded allegations, and various different dates for already pleaded allegations. Not for the first time, we say. I would ask your lordship for permission to take instruction on that. And the judge does not respond at this juncture yet. The reason I raise this in open court, as your lordship will probably appreciate, is because that will obviously involve Mr. Depp's lawyers taking instructions from him. And given that he's about to go into the witness box, as we're all aware, oh, Johnny's about to testify. Is he going first? That would be interesting. I am sure your lordship would rather that we did not delay proceedings, and that is an exception to the rule, and your lordship knows the rule, I mean. Mr. Depp's lawyers may be able to take instructions from him after he finishes his evidence at the end of today. I am sure he will still be in the middle of cross-examination, but they can take instructions from him, limited, of course, just to the 6th witness statement of Ms. Heard and the 7th witness statement of Ms. Heard. Therefore, I ask your lordship for permission to do so. More than that, I cannot say at this stage in relation to the 6th and 7th witness statements. And judge responds, well, it is for the defendants. It is not to, first of all, ask for permission to rely on those witness statements. Mr. Sherborne responds, yes, but we have been told by the defendant's solicitors that they intend to. I will sit down and let Ms. Wass develop that submission. And the judge says, I do not know who is going to be speaking on behalf of the defendants to start with. Okay, all right. That is insane. And Johnny's going to testify to this. Interesting. I'm just going to modify the title accordingly because I did not know this. I did not know this. All right, Ms. Wass. I think I probably to start with, and for the most of the proceedings, my lord, but can I help when it comes to the fifth statement? Judge Nichols says, I'm not involved at the moment in explanations, Ms. Wass. All right. The judge continues, I have assumed from what Mr. Sherborne has said that you are going to ask for permission to rely on those additional statements from Ms. Heard. If you do, then I would be interested in your comments on Mr. Sherborne's application to be able to talk to his client despite the fact that he will have started his evidence. Ms. Wass says, I can deal with that shortly. Yes, I'm going to be asking for permission to rely on the additional statements. The contents are not going to be hugely controversial. I call bullshit, but okay, since they're raising new issues. But there is a matter which may require further instructions from the defense. I am not sure that it is going to take particularly long because it all arose out of an error that may have occurred about one of the dates of the pleaded incidents. Okay, let's see if this is just a way to weasel out of it, or if it's true. As a matter of principle, we are uncomfortable about a defendant, any defendant, or any witness having contact with the lawyers during the course of cross-examination. I make it plain. I agree there. I totally, unfortunately, I have to agree there because that is asking for testimony to be tainted by attorney advice. I mean, that's plain as day. That's everywhere. U.S., U.K., Uganda, whatever. I make it plain that there is absolutely no suggestion that the lawyers would do anything improper or untoward, but the temptation may well be for a witness to seek some sort of guidance, which is out with the ambit of Ms. Wass. The judge interrupts. I'm afraid you cannot have your cake and eat it. No, says Ms. Wass. And judge continues. If you want to rely on those additional witness statements, and they have been, I assume, provided at the times that Mr. Sherborne has said, either the trial has got to pause while instructions are taken at this stage, or Mr. Sherborne is allowed to talk to his client in the middle of the cross-examination, or I refuse permission. Okay, so the judge has ruled. Either they come in and Mr. Sherborne and his team can talk to Johnny in the middle of cross-examination, or those statements do not come in because they came in so late. Ms. Wass continues, my lord, if that is the price that has to be paid, then I will pay it. And we do not, judge interrupts, there are then two alternatives. One is that we pause the trial while Mr. Sherborne takes those instructions, or we proceed and Mr. Depp is able to talk to his lawyers in the middle of giving his evidence. Okay, again, we're repeating the exact same thing. Ms. Wass says, may I ask through the court the likely length of such a conference? Because if it is going to be hours, I fully accept that it is not, judge interrupts, that is not going to happen. Ms. Wass, no, absolutely. But if it is a question of 10 or 15 minutes, then I would urge the court to wait so that, I lost my place, I apologize. So that, oh, judge interrupts again. I mean, he's, Ms. Wass can get a word in edgewise. Judge interrupts. The trouble with that is that Mr. Sherborne tells me that he has barely had a chance to read the 6th and 7th statements, as you just heard, obviously, and I assume that he's in difficulties in answering that question. Ms. Wass responds, well, I do not want to put him in difficulties, and it would appear that, given we are in this position, the best way of proceeding is for my lord to agree to Mr. Sherborne's application. The judge says, right. So I will grant permission for the defendants to rely on the 5th, 6th, and 7th witness statements of Ms. Heard. There we go. We have a ruling. But the claimant may discuss those statements and only those, even though he's in the middle of his evidence. Yes, says Ms. Wass. Well, Mr. Sherborne, says the judge, is there anything you want to say about that? Mr. Sherborne responds, no, certainly, not as regards the 6th and 7th witness statements, which, as I say, arrived on Sunday and last night at midnight. The 5th witness statement is slightly different, as I have said, because we have had a little bit longer to look at that. I did want to ask your lordship for permission to ask Mr. Depp a few introductory questions about it before he answers Ms. Wass's questions in cross-examination. Just to explain to your lordship in general terms what judge interrupts. Mr. Sherborne, I do not want to cut across you, but it may help if I say this. I infer from that request that you have had a chance to talk to Mr. Depp about the fifth statement about Ms. Heard? Yes, my lord. I did say that, in my opening remarks. Judge responds, you did indeed. So that when I said previously that he may talk with his lawyers despite commencing his evidence on the fifth, sixth, and seventh witness statements, I'm going to change that and just to limit it to the sixth and the seventh witness statements. Yes, responds Mr. Sherborne. The judge continues, Ms. Wass, I do not know if there's anything that you want to say, but it would seem to me only fair, again, in consequence of your application, that Mr. Sherborne should be able to ask his client some questions about the fifth witness statement. Ms. Wass says, yes, there's no objection. Good, responds the judge. All right, then, Mr. Sherborne, I agree to that. Mr. Sherborne says, yes, I'm grateful. Can I explain, just so your lordship knows, and there is no confusion about it, I am going to ask him about just one matter in the fifth witness statement, which Ms. Heard comments on. And that is the use of recordings. I'm going to ask the question about a recording which was provided through the defendants shortly before the relief from sanctions hearing. And I was going to ask him not about what it says in the recordings, but just a few questions about the circumstances in which that recording was made. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is a precursor to the recording of Johnny slamming the cabinets that Amber, recorded on her iPad. Because that is going to be a huge, just like in the US trial, this is going to be a huge, huge piece of the puzzle. Huge. Okay, let's keep going. The judge responds, of course, less would be good. Makes sense. He doesn't want to spend too much time there. That is all I'm going to ask him. I do not think it's going to take more than 10 minutes. It may take less. Less would be good. Yeah, of course. I understand, responds Mr. Sherborne. He is obviously going to be cross-examined for a long time. Yes, of course, says the judge. Excuse me, I do understand that. But he will also understand that his witness statements have already been provided to the court. I assume that you are going to ask whether those witness statements are true and invite those to stand as his evidence in chief. My lord, I will, says Mr. Sherborne. That will be the first thing I do, obviously, when he's in the witness box. All right, responds the judge. Can I deal with one final matter, says Mr. Sherborne, which has arisen in relation to witness statements? Your lordship will perhaps have seen, I'm not sure if you have been troubled by it yet. It is a short point, but as I understand it, the defendants are seeking permission to cross-examine Ms. Amanda de Cadenet. I'm sorry, the defendants are asking to what? Says the judge. Cross-examine Ms. Amanda de Cadenet, who is a friend of Ms. Heard, responds Mr. Sherborne. I think they are seeking to do so because they say that, perhaps I should have put this in context. What happened is Ms. de Cadenet was originally intended to be one of defendant's witnesses, and a witness summary was provided. There was some publicity, which I think may well be in the bundle, it may not be, about the fact that Ms. de Cadenet has refused to come and give evidence for Ms. Heard, and she has provided a declaration to Mr. Depp for use in the American proceedings in Virginia, in which she says she felt misled by Ms. Heard. Surprise, surprise. Nobody is surprised there. In which she says, Ms. Cadenet says, that she felt misled by Ms. Heard when she denied hitting Mr. Depp. Which we all know has happened. I didn't fucking deck you. I was punching you. Don't be such a baby, Johnny. Ring a bell, anyone? That is part of her U.S. declaration. It is important that your lordship understands that. So the truth in the U.K. and the truth in the U.S. are two different things. What the fuck? This is nuts. This is crazy. That declaration is in the trial bundle. I am told. But just to make it clear, we are not intending to rely on that. We have not served a hearsay notice. Your lordship will be very familiar with the fact that where both sides, in this case, are relying on hearsay, we have each served hearsay notices. Judge says yes. Mr. Sherborne continues. So, just to make clear, as I say, we have not served a hearsay notice, so I do not understand if it is pursued, what point is made as to how the defendants are able to cross-examine Ms. de Cadenet on that declaration. We received, as I say, a letter stating that the defendants intended to apply for permission to do so. And I thought it important to explain before we start off on the wrong footing that we have not served a hearsay notice and therefore there is no jurisdiction to do so. That is the last point I'm going to make. Judge says, good. Now, do you want to start your evidence? Yes, my lord, says Mr. Sherborne. Your lordship mentioned moments ago that we served our opening statements in writing. With your lordship's permission, I call our first witness, Mr. Johnny Depp, to the witness box. Thank you, responds the judge. Wow, that is super early. That is super early. I was not expecting Johnny Depp to take the witness stand on page 19 of the transcript. Mr. John Christopher Depp affirmed, examined by Mr. Sherborne. So this is direct examination in the UK trial. Laura B., in your opinion, are Johnny's lawyers afraid to go against the corrupt system? I don't know. I don't know. That is a great question. I guess give us time. Ask that question again in like 4 court days of the UK trial, I suppose. And then we'll see. Mr. Justice Nickel says, Mr. Depp, if you would like to sit down, please do so. Bear in mind that although there is a microphone in front of you, it would be helpful if you would keep your voice as loud as you can so that it can be projected and heard by everybody listening, both in this courtroom and in the other courtroom. And they're just gonna write Depp as the witness. That is fascinating. So the witness. So on the transcript, every time you see the witness in this portion, it's Johnny Depp speaking. Certainly, thank you. Mr. Justice Nickel, yes. Mr. Sherborne says, Mr. Depp, can you begin by giving your full name to the court, please? My full name is John Christopher Depp II. Mr. Sherborne, can I begin by taking you to the witness statements that you have provided in this case? You should find to your right an impressive array of documents and files. Can I ask you to take, I think it must be the second file, file number 2, the yellow one. The color scheme may help. I think it's the yellow one. Sorry, you're right, Mr. Depp. It should be the first one. I think it's the blue one. Is it the first one that you pointed to? The second one. You were right the first time, I think. It is, yes. I think it is that file. There has been a certain amount of additions, so documents have spilled into the second part of the file. Can you find for us tab D22? It should be, no, it should be tab 38. D38, page D22. There's a tab number and there is a page number. Yes. I am grateful. Can you turn to that? Do you have it in front of you? Yes, sir. And does that say the second witness statement of John Christopher Depp II? Yes. Can I ask then you to turn, I think it's page D57 on the right-hand, no, D58. Yes. Is that your signature? Do you have that? Is there D58, D57 in your bundle? I'm sorry. There's nothing in 57. 58 is something different. Okay. Can you find the signature page for that witness statement? The one starting on D22, if you try and find the internal page numbering, do you have page 36 right in the bottom of the middle? Sorry, I may have. So D, yes, if you find the tab, it is D38. Yes. And if you look, have you got the first page of that? I appreciate there are lots of documents. It is wrangling the notebook, sorry. Is it broken, the file? It is fine. You should have D22 on the, I swear to God, this is fun. You should have D22 as the front page. And if you look, there should be, sorry, D58 should be with just your signature. Yes, I see it. I'm grateful. Can you confirm to the court, is that your signature? Yes, it is. Can you confirm that the facts stated in this witness statement are true? Yes. Can I ask you to do the same with your third witness statement, which hopefully should be behind tab 54 of the bundle? I do not know if that goes into the second bundle. I have tab 54. I am grateful. Have you got page D173? Yes, third witness. Can you confirm? Is that your third witness statement? Yes, it is. And can you turn to the back of that? It should be the D182. Yes, it is D182. Can you confirm? Is that your signature? Yes. Can you confirm for the court that the facts stated in this, your third witness statement, are true? Yes, sir. Right, Mr. Depp, you can close that file. I will get the hang of it at a certain point. I'm going to ask as I think you heard a moment ago, a couple of questions that arise from Ms. Heard's fifth witness statements. You should find, I think, in file 2.1, which is the lighter of the blue files. Yes. You should find a document at tab 71.3. Has that found its way in? It should be one of the additional ones. 71, 71.2, 71.3. Yes. Do you have a document behind there entitled Fifth Witness Statement of Amber Heard? Yes, I do. Can I just ask you to turn over to the page to paragraph 5, please? Yes. Now, Ms. Heard here is talking about a recording on 26th of September 2015. Do you see? Yes. And if you look, have you got the first page of that? I appreciate there are a lot of documents. I apologize. It is wrangling the notebook. Sorry. Is it broken, the file? It is. Wait, where am I? I apologize. I should be following the right column. I got distracted. Do you see? Yes. All right. Rather than have both documents open at once, I am just going to show you what she says about this recording, and then I'm going to show you the recording. So we only have one document open at a time. But if you need me to go back at any stage to her statement, as you can understand them, please just ask me to do so. Certainly. Thank you. So if we look at what she says, she is talking about a recording from September 2015. Do you know what that recording is? It is one that was provided. There is no dispute about this. So I can just tell you, it was the one that was provided, and I think it's called Argument 2. Yes, yes. I think you know which one Ms. Heard is referring to. Yes. She says it was recorded consensually while we were still together, if you look at paragraph 5, quote unquote. Yes, sir. Quote, Johnny and I regularly recorded our conversations during our relationship. As I said in my third witness statement, continues Ms. Heard, recording conversations started as part of our relationship therapy in order to help us communicate more effectively. We can only imagine, by the way, whose idea it was to start recording, huh? We can only imagine. We can only imagine. She was setting the stage for something much more sinister that had nothing to do with any of this. Then this statement continues on Mr. Sherborne. They were also a tool to remind Johnny of what he would do when using drugs and alcohol because he would not remember or would deny what he had said, or, excuse me, be gaslit by the witch herself. But of course, he's not going to write that. I wanted to show Johnny what he was capable of to help him with his recovery. Mr. Sherborne continues. Now, do you accept, Mr. Depp, that explanation as to what the purpose of these recordings was or not? No, I do not exactly. Can you just explain in your own words, just in one or two sentences maybe, please, what the purpose you understood these recordings to be? Really, in our relationship, we, as you progress to start to know one another, conversations happen. And then later, when you refer to the conversation to that other person, which would have been Ms. Heard, she would say something very different from what we had talked about before. It was radically different. So I, at the time, thought that the best thing to do was to record the conversation. So I retrieved my telephone and brought it to where we were talking. And I said, well, I'm going to record this conversation just so that she knew. And I wanted it to be out in the open. So I could then later reference the tape if she were to, once again, her words, later did not match what I know that they were and what she had said in that recording. So I used it to play it back to her just to show her what she said, essentially. Thank you, Mr. Depp. And if I can ask you again, I know it is going to be rather boring, but just keep your voice up. The acoustics in this courtroom are not marvelous. As long as his lordship can hear you, that is the most important. Sorry, I have a tendency to talk quietly. I am sorry. Judge says that is all right. Mr. Sherborne continues. Maybe your lordship can hear better. And now to Johnny. Can I then take you back to the witness statement, paragraph 6? So, Ms. Heard here is talking about having explained what she said was the purpose, and you have explained that you said this was the purpose of the recordings. So she refers to a specific example, and this is what we have called argument 2. And she says here, quote, "It is true that I accept responsibility during the argument. For example, I referred to a fight we had the night before. Johnny says, after you fucking got physically violent with me, I texted Travis and said, come up here. I replied, I know. Often, in order to get Johnny to even entertain or participate in a difficult conversation, especially one about his violence towards me, or about working on the relationship without him storming out or getting angry, or both, I felt I had to take on blame and go along with his version of events." Amber continues, "I was desperately wanted this relationship to work because Johnny was refusing to engage properly throughout this conversation, and I did lose my cool with him a bit." Okay. That is her description of the recording that we called argument 2. Can I show you the transcript of the recording? Certainly. And just ask you a few questions about Ms. Heard's description. I will come back to her description when I have taken you to the recording. Certainly. You should find the transcript in file 5 to your right. Shall I keep this out? Yes. Yes, probably. Can I ask you to take that file? Can I ask you not to take that file yet? Can you take the file in front of you and stick it on top? Yeah, in case you need to look at it again. If you take file 5, it should be the lighter green one. I'm hoping there will be you will find behind tab 154. Judge interrupts. No, volume 5 begins at tab 165, Mr. Sherborne. Then mine is completely out. That is all right, says the judge. Mr. Sherborne continues. It is then a file 4. Can you turn to tab 154? In 5 or 4? In 4. Thank you. The front page. Do you have the front page? Yes. Can you just tell me what the numbers in the bottom right-hand corner, so I'm sure we're on the same page? F912. I am grateful. If you look at 913, just to explain, do you see at the top it is the file name argument 2? Yes, I do. This is the September 2015 recording that Ms. Heard talks about in her 5th witness statement that we just saw. Yes. Just to set this in context, can I take you to page F923? Yes. If you look at, can you see just below the first punch hole the word "go home and listen to the tape, please"? That's what they're there for. Yes. That is you speaking. Yes, sir. Then Ms. Heard says, yes, you listen to the fucking tape, quote unquote. Right? Yes. Now, Ms. Heard refers to texting Travis if you look below the second punch hole. Yes. Can you see, you say the words, quote, watching you lie in front of Travis last night was really special, end quote. Yes, sir. Can you then turn to F925? I'm going to ask you a question just in a moment. And then F924, by the way, just over the page, just to explain in reference to Travis. And I'm going to show you what it is that was said there about Travis. And I'm going to ask you, if you look at F924 at the bottom, you see that Ms. Heard says, I am not going to sit here and go over every fight we've had, quote unquote. Do you see that? Yes. I'm not going to refight this fight, she says. And he reads to the words, go run away together, end quote. And then you say, there is quite a bit more, but I do not need to take you through it. And you say, let's ask Travis tonight if you told him, quote unquote. Yes. Then go over the page. And can you see, sorry, at the bottom of the page, you're just afraid the truth will come out, quote unquote. Do you see that? Yes, I see that. What truth, quote unquote, says Ms. Heard? You say that you lied. She says, quote, "What are we fucking talking about? I didn't fucking even have a fucking thing to lie about," end quote. And then you respond, quote, "No, I said to you, Amber, tell Travis that what you just did you punch me in the fucking jaw? Did you fucking kick? And you shouldn't say a fucking, and you said, I don't know what you're talking about. Can you just explain, given that Ms. Heard has said this in reference to Travis, was all about a conversation in which she was accepting blame because of your violence towards her? Can you explain what you were referring to and why Travis was being asked to come up? Well, I had asked Travis up the night prior when another argument had ensued. And as things tended to do, it escalated and it got physical, ended with a bit of assault, and Miss Heard has struck me. So I called Travis to come up. And what he had said to me was that she had, in fact, done that. And she was now not prepared to speak to Travis or anyone else about it, which was I wanted. And what I was hoping for was that she would just say the truth of what happened. And did you hit her, Mr. Depp, the night before? No, sir. Okay. Can I just take you to one last part of the transcript? If you go, the judge interrupts. Just a minute, please. I'm sorry, my lord. Can I just ask the Travis that we were talking about? I think I understood there's a Travis McGivern. Yes, sir. Is that Travis McGivern that you were talking about? Asks Mr. Sherborne. Yes, sir. The judge interrupts. Yes, thank you. Sorry, sorry, my lord. I said sir instead of my lord. Don't worry about that, responds the judge. That is fine. Protocol. Yes, Mr. Sherborne, says the judge. Can I take you to page F924? Yes. Here you are still talking about Travis and the night before. At the second punch hole, if we can take you there, I said to Travis, no, I said to you, hey, tell Travis what just happened. Ms. Heard responded, you told me to do it. You told me to. You said, go do that, reads to the words. What the fuck are you talking about? End quote. There you are speaking as if you are Ms. Heard. Then you say, quote, and I watched you lie there. I was hitting you. And then you talk about her toes. Just coming to the end of that, that refers to another incident that we may return to. She said, quote, I am not sitting here bitching about it, am I? That's the difference between me and you. Yes, I did start a physical fight. Then you respond, yeah, you did. So I had to get the fuck out of there. And now Ms. Heard, as you will recall in her witness statement, says that you were refusing to engage properly throughout this conversation, and that is why she accepted she was violent when she had not been. Mr. Depp, were you refusing to engage properly with Ms. Heard? No, I was refusing to engage properly with Ms. Heard. I wanted to avoid another confrontation, as was my practice in these situations, whenever it would escalate. I would try to go to my corner, as it were, so that I thought it is important that we separate before things got out of hand. Thank you, Mr. Depp. Can I ask you one further matter? I'm just going to wait for his lordship to finish his note. Judge says yes. Mr. Sherborne continues. I'm going to ask you very briefly, Johnny, about the circumstances of another recording, which it is one that Ms. Heard provided recently. I can show you where it is in the bundle, but I'm not going to make you go through the actual transcript itself. Just so you know, we are talking about the 22nd of July, 2016. It is accepted for your lordship's notice. I think it is F5, the tab 161F. As I say, there's no dispute. there was a recording made by Ms. Heard on the 22nd. That's a typo. That's not the 222nd of July. On the 22nd of July, 2016. Mr. Depp, can you explain to this court in one sentence in July 2016, in terms of the proceedings in America, what had happened between you and Ms. Heard? As of July 2016? Yes, July 2016. 2016. Ms. Heard had filed for divorce, and she then had filed for a restraining order against me. And at the time, I was on tour with my band, and we had a show in San Francisco, and that is where that Mr. Sherborne interrupts. You mentioned that Ms. Heard filed a restraining order. Yes. We have seen this, so there's no dispute. But that was an order that was made by the court in May and then extended again by Ms. Heard. In words of one sentence, what was the basis of the restraining order? The judge interrupts. Well, Mr. Sherborne, the material is in the papers on which the restraining order was made. Mr. Sherborne responds, my lord, yes, I am grateful, my lord. We know, Mr. Depp, it was made on the basis of her allegation of domestic violence against you when she said she was in fear of her life. Yes. Okay, coming then to the recording. That recording, as I say, was July 22nd, and it records a meeting between you and Ms. Heard. Do you remember that meeting? Yes, I do. Okay, who asked for that meeting? Was it you or her? It was Ms. Heard requested to meet with me. And we have that recording. Where did that recording take place? The recording took place on the second day. It was a hotel in San Francisco, I believe. It was the Omni, I believe. Did you have that meeting with her in the hotel lobby or restaurant? Or where did you have that meeting with her? I got a room. I just rented a room so that we could talk. And how many people were in that room when you had this talk with Ms. Heard? It was just the two of us. And you explained moments ago, well, as we know, that the two of you, Ms. Heard, had obtained a restraining order against you. Yes. Given that she had a restraining order against you, did she make sure that she stayed at least 10 feet away from you at all times in that hotel room? No, sir. No. Can you explain why you say she did not stay away from you at all times? Well, there was quite a lot of discussion about the various things going on, and at time it, of course, got emotional because of the entire situation, and she asked for some comfort in a hug. She wanted me to embrace her. Did you embrace her? No, I did not. Why did you not embrace her? I did not think it was right, given circumstances. If she had said that to the world, that she was in fear for her life and from me, and that I had been this horrible monster, if you will, and which was not the case, of course. I thought I did not understand why she would want to touch me. Well, we have obviously only got part of the conversation, but was it one long interrupted discussion between you and Ms. Heard in the hotel bedroom? Yes. It was quite a long discussion. It was very taxing, of course, and Ms. Heard at a certain point to me looked just exhausted, and she was complaining of palpitations and just generally was not feeling well. And what did you do then, if anything? Well, I suggested she take a nap, maybe sleep for 2 or 3 hours, and then I would wake her up. And what did she do, if anything? There was what did she do? Excuse me, I'm sorry. What did Ms. Heard do to your suggestion about the nap of 2-3 hours? Well, I took her to the bedroom. It was just a living room and a bedroom. So I walked her to the bedroom, pulled down the sheets, got her in bed, covered her, and took before I covered her, she looked at me. Sorry. She looked at me and asked me if I was getting in with her. Oh, God. Poker face, Larry. Poker face. Getting into the bed with her. Yes. To cuddle, to hold her. And I said, no, I am not. And I tucked her in and I walked back into the living room. Now, I'm sorry. The reason I broke character there for a second is obviously I'm a human being and I have my own reactions to things, as I'm sure you all do as well. This is a woman who has alleged this man in front of her has struck her, has put her in fear of her life to the point where she had to get a restraining order, filed for divorce, and that she's terrified of, right? And now they're in a hotel room sorting things out. And she says, "I'm not feeling well." And this is a very common tactic by some women to kind of diffuse the situation. Like tensions are very high, everything is very, very tense. So in order to diffuse the situation, they say something like, "I'm not feeling well, like you're making me anxious, you're making me upset," and then seek comfort from the individual that is in front of you, right? And then when he suggests, "I'll put you in bed," this is like green light cue for her to go, "Maybe I can get him back in bed with me and we're going to fix this whole thing and we're going to be back together or whatever." And she tries, according to Johnny. She tries. As soon as he puts her in bed, this man who she's so deathly afraid of that she has a restraining order against, asking for a hug and asking for him to join her in bed to cuddle. And of course, way more than cuddle. Come on, we all know where cuddles lead. This is like, this is so bad. I can't believe, I don't know if we ever got that in the US trial. I don't remember this in the US trial. Because I heard all of her testimony. She obviously never talked about this. Well, because it hurts her case. Obviously. Okay, let's keep going. So, Mr. Sherborne, she was asking you if you're gonna go and get in bed with her. Yes, to cuddle, to hold her, and I said, "No, I am not." And I tucked her in, and I walked back to the living room. And what did you do in the living room? In the living room, I was doing my best, and oh my God, I feel him so hard here. I was doing my best to try to make sense of what happened. I was trying to make sense of everything, uh, given all the circumstances surrounding our lives, my life at the time. And I sat there and I thought, and again, as I said, it was a very emotional time, and I just sat there and I cried. Mr. Depp, as far as you could tell, at any stage during your meeting, did Ms. Heard seem scared or terrified of you? No, not at all. Thank you very much, Mr. Depp. If you wait there, Ms. Wass will have some questions. Certainly. Thank you. The judge says, yes, Ms. Wass. Mr. Depp, I'm going to ask you in detail about some of these recordings that you just referred to. Yes. Just so that you understand how I'm going to ask you questions, the recordings that you have just mentioned took place in July 2016, which was really right at the end of your relationship with Miss Heard, was it not? The end of our relationship was April 22nd. Okay, let me put it to you this way. You were still interacting with her in July because we have it on tape. I was asked to interact with her, and because I was under a restraining order, I was not. Let me cut through this because I do not want to get sidetracked. I'm going to start at the beginning, all right? And we will end up with what happened in July. And I will give you an opportunity to answer more questions about it at that stage, all right? Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Starting at the beginning, you are now 57 years old, yes? Yes, ma'am. I think you found fame and fortune really at an early stage in your life, did you not? I do not know if I would call it fame, but around the age of 22, yes, my life changed radically. Yes, the fame and the celebrity, if I can use that word, gave you money. I do not think it gave it to me. I worked, I had a job, and I was paid for my services. Yes. You came into money, yes? For the first time in my life, yes. You had influence? What, back then? Yes, from that time. I would not say I had influence. No. Okay, let me just explain so you can deal with it. From an early age, you put it at 21, and I'm going to suggest that you had money, power, and influence. Now, do you agree with that statement or not? I do not agree with that statement that early in the game. No. All right. At an early stage in your life, I think you will agree that you have found drugs and alcohol. Yes, ma'am. We can look at the files if you like. There are several interviews, which I'm sure you're familiar with, have been put in the bundles. But you said in one interview, I did every kind of drug there was by 14, quote unquote. Yes, yes, ma'am. Is that true? At that time, pretty much, yes, it was true. Right. Could that have changed? Quote, I did every kind of drug there was by the time I was 14, end quote. If it was true then, how can it be different now? There were different drugs after I was 14. Oh, you found even more. All right. Okay. No, no, no. Not that I found even more. Every kind of drug that was relatively known to man, I had experienced at that time. Okay, so that I understand, what you're saying is that since you were 14, more drugs have become used as recreational drugs and prescription drugs, which you also found. Is that what you're saying? No, that is not what I am saying. Then what are you saying? You asked me the question. I asked you the question. At the age of 14, at the age of 14, you said you had done every drug known to man. No, at that time. No, I quoted you what you said in a magazine. We can look at it. If you do not know, if you can repeat it. Quote, I did every kind of drug there was by 14, end quote. Nothing known to man. That was a quotation you are alleged to have said to the person that interviewed you. Is that correct? I definitely said that. It was true. Yes, ma'am. Then I think you wanted to qualify, which is why we have become sidetracked by saying there were others you have taken since then. It is actually semantics. I was referring to drugs that I had taken prior to the age of 14 up to the age of 14. After that, there were there were many new drugs that came out that I had not taken. Oh, all right. That is what I was trying to clarify. Okay, let's just try and stick to the point, okay? But if I say something that you think needs elaboration, then please feel free to say something, all right? Yes, that is good. Okay, what you said to another magazine, I will give my lord the references, even though Mr. Depp says he did not need them, is at file 5, tab 172, page 4. This was an interview you did with Playboy magazine. You were asked this quote, at one point, your life did seem out of control. Was it drugs? End quote. You said, quote, mostly alcohol. There were drugs too, pills, and there was a danger I could go over the edge. I could have, end quote. Judge interrupts. Just a moment, please. Mr. Depp, recordings are being made, but in order for the recording to record your answer, you need to articulate your answer. I have seen that you nodded your head at some points at that Ms. Was that was she was asking you. Indeed, Ms. Was. But do you need to speak? But you do actually need to speak. Excuse me. Yes, head nods do not come out in microphones. I am sorry. Yes, head nods and head shakes do not come out on the microphone. You're quite right. I understand. Thank you, Your Lordship. Ms. Was. Now, that remark, there were drugs too, pills, and there was a danger I could go over the edge. I could have, quote unquote. Do you agree that there's a fair assessment of how your relationship with drugs had been over the years? At that time and in my youth, as I was young, very young man, my experience with narcotics and stimulants or alcohol began at a very young age when it was not a particularly stable or secure or safe home life. And there was quite a lot of unpleasantness in the house. So I remember that my mother used to ask me to go and get her nerve pills. I think it was around the age of 11 that it dawned on me that nerve pills were calming her nerves. So I brought her nerve pills and I took one. Right. And that began what I have to say was a way for me to, the only way that I found to numb the pain. But over the years, you have carried on, have you not? On and off? On and off, yes. Taking drugs of all sorts? Yes. I mean, just to name a few. Cocaine? Yes, ma'am. Ecstasy or MDMA? Yes, ma'am. LSD? When I was much younger, yes. Yes, I'm not going to time these, but thank you for that qualification. Mushrooms? Yes. Ketamine? Never. Never? Never? No, ma'am. You sure about that? Yes. Okay. And cannabis? Cannabis, yes. And you have also, on your own account, became addicted and abused prescription drugs. Yes, ma'am. And there was a time, do you agree, when you found alcohol and drugs very glamorous? No. No. Did you not idolize those who idolize the drug culture? I have always been interested in the counterculture, and many literary heroes of mine, including Chaucer, who was an opium addict, including Thomas de Quincey, who wrote Confessions of an Opium Eater in about the mid 18th century. So it has been a subject, and there are many other subjects that I have learned about, read about. So, leaving behind the 18th century and fast forwarding to the 20th century, Hunter S. Thompson was an idol of yours, was he not? Hunter S. Thompson was an idol of mine, yes. Hunter S. Thompson was a man who extolled the virtues of psychedelic drugs, did he not? I believe Mr. Thompson has a very famous quote that says, I do not condone the use of drugs or alcohol to anyone, but they have always worked for me. In fact, the exact quote is, I quote, I hate to advocate drugs, alcohol, violence, or insanity. Ah, yes, there you go. To anyone, but they have always worked for me. Is that the quote? Yes. So that is Hunter S. Thompson. Yes. The musician, Keith Richards, has been a role model of yours, has he not? Keith Richards has been one of my favorite guitarists and role models, yes. A man whose drug abuse has been well documented, yes. Another musician, Marilyn Manson, is he somebody that you have shared many interests in? All three of those that you have mentioned, I have been very close to. They have been friends, wonderful friends. And your friendship with Marilyn Manson, is that based mainly in music? Yes. Initially, yes. What about after initially? What other things did you have in common with Marilyn Manson? It turns out that we had both lived in South Florida for a period of time in the same area. I was a little bit before him when I was playing these clubs, and he was playing the same clubs. Did you share an interest in taking recreational drugs with Marilyn Manson? No. No? No? No. Yes. No. Are you saying that you have never taken drugs with Marilyn Manson? I am not saying that. Let me ask the question a bit more clearly then. Okay. Have you ever taken drugs with Marilyn Manson? Yes. And was that once or more than once? Twice, maybe. And when was that? Many years ago. Oh, give us a clue. Was it during the currency of your relationship with Ms. Heard? No, no, long before. Long before then? Yes. So to suggest that you had taken drugs with Marilyn Manson after 2011 would be quite wrong, would it? Yes. Mr. Depp, you are lying about that, and I'm going to demonstrate to you how I can show that you are lying. But it will come out in due course, all right? Yes, ma'am. Paul Bettany, another one of your drug buddies, yes? Is that a question? Is Yes, it is a question. What do you say about that? Is Paul Bettany or was Paul Bettany one of your drug buddies? I'm sorry, I thought you were making a statement saying Paul Bettany was another one of your drug buddies. Paul Paul Bettany is an actor that I have worked with several times. He is a friend, a good friend, and yes, we have dabbled in drugs together. Right. And what drugs would they be? They would be cocaine, alcohol, any sorts of pills. Yes, there could have been Xanax, or if he needed, if he asked for Xanax or Adderall, whatever, I would just give it to him, of course. So you would supply Paul Bettany with whatever medication or controlled drugs he asked for. Is that right? If he was feeling anxious or if he was feeling unpleasant, yeah, I would give him what he asked for. Would you give him Xanax? Yes. Would you give him cocaine? Yes, ma'am. Are you at one stage, and you at one stage owned a nightclub called the Viper Rooms? Yes, ma'am. Uh, Judge interrupts. Just a moment. In Los Angeles, continues Ms. Wass. Yes. I'm sorry. What was her name? Asked. What was the name? Excuse me. The Viper Rooms, responds Ms. Wass. And I think you agreed. Yes, Your Honor. I mean, Your Lordship. A club where drugs were freely used, continues Ms. Wass. No, drugs were not freely used. Not freely used. No, alcohol was freely used. River Phoenix was a young actor who collapsed and died in your club. He died. River passed away just on the sidewalk, just in front of my club. Yes. Having been in your club. Yes, we have been there for about, I think it was about 45 minutes. And he collapsed in your club, did he not? I did not see it happen, but from what I understand, River began to feel unpleasant or feel poorly. He began to sweat and he made his way out the door. And once out the door, apparently he collapsed and he died of a drug overdose. Yes, ma'am. And you, over the course of your adult life, have had a lot of freedom, have you not? Do you agree with that or not? You would have to define what you mean by freedom. Okay. You would not have been forced to lead a conventional life. You could take drugs and do more or less what you wanted, given your money and influence and power. I'm sorry. Could you just repeat? I'm trying. Okay. Do you agree that your money and influence and power have given you the freedom that many ordinary people do not have? I would say that all those things that you have mentioned, I would say that I have been very fortunate in that they are, I suppose, at a certain point, they become a part of your life. But the other side of the coin is that you're in a way forced to live the life of a fugitive. That is, in the sense that you no longer anonymity that does not exist anymore anywhere, and you cannot leave your hotel rooms. So I would not define that as freedom, I must say. All right. You have a huge number of people working for you, do you not? A huge entourage. You would have to define the word huge. How many people do you employ? Let me ask you that way. I would say I cannot tell you. It is that many, huh? All right. I think we can agree. Maybe it is 15, 20, maybe. And you surround yourself with people, I suggest, who never really say no to you. Is that right? That is not true at all. You do not agree with that? No, I do not. There are people who will do what you ask. They will do anything you ask, including some of them supplying drugs to you, controlled drugs to you. There are people who work for me, work with me, who, yes, in the past have been asked to provide whatever I have felt was necessary at the time. Well, putting it bluntly, if you wanted illegal drugs, controlled drugs, and you asked one of your staff, and I'm not going to name anybody in particular right now, that member of the staff would provide you with those drugs if he could. At times, yes. Despite the fact that it was illegal. Yes. Yes. We see you now as a very charming and polite and very soft spoken. And there is another side of you, is there not, Mr. Depp, that is less charming? I'm afraid that would not be for me to judge. Why? Well, because I would say that your statement is quite blanket and would apply to every single human being. Well, okay, let me put it to you like this. You are aware that there is a nasty, angry side to your character, are you not? I am well aware that there has been quite a lot of pain. Sorry, I did not understand that last word. I'm sorry. I think Mr. Depp said pain. Pain. I'm sorry, Mr. Depp. Carry on, says Ms. Wass. From youth and the way I was raised, and as you know, yes, when you're trying to figure out what this is all about, when you say success and notoriety and those things come to you and you do not quite understand why they have come to you and you do not understand why you have them, especially when you do not feel in your heart worthy of them, it is confusing. It is a confusing thing because you have essentially become a product. Your name no longer sounds the way it did when you were growing up. It has become a product. So the sound of my own name, even when I speak my own name, sounds foreign to me. Do you have an anger problem? No, I do not have an anger problem. You do not think you have an anger problem? No. I mean, over the course of your life, your adult life, yes, you have regularly engaged in destructive and violent behavior. Do you agree? Just a minute. Judge interrupts. Do you agree, Mr. Depp? Johnny Depp responds, I do not agree. Ms. Wass, you do not. All right. We're going to have to look at some documents then. In fact, you have got number 4 in front of you, I think. Have you got file 4 open in front of you? Yes, I do. If you go to the back of file 4, there is a cutting, or there are 2 cuttings about which tab, please, interrupts the judge. 163, says Ms. Wass. That is this. It is in that one, is it? I think we're going to have a problem, Mr. Depp. Shall I tell you what? No, I think it is in 5, I think. Judge, 163 in my file is an article called Depp Struck by William Trott. Ms. Wass, exactly. May I inquire, is that my lord's bundle 4 or 5? That is 4. I have the same bundle as my lord, but I think Mr. Depp is in 5. There have been, I'm sorry, mine stops at 158. Mr. Depp, the judge continues, I have said this previously when we dealt with hearings remotely that patience is often needed, even if you are in court, because bundles do sometimes change, and one just has to try to deal with it as best that they can. Absolutely, my lord. I am easy to roll with the punches. Oh, poor choice of words, Johnny. I just could not find it in the file. Have you now found it? 163, says Ms. Wass. I believe I have to go to file 5. Please do. This is an article my lord has identified by William C. Trott. Yes? Yes. It dates back to 1989, so a long time ago. I think you were 25 at the time. The article reads, if you go down to the second punch hole, quote, Depp, 25, was arrested and held in custody for 3 hours early Wednesday after police answered a noisy party complaint at a hotel in the West End section of Vancouver where 21 Jump Street is filmed, end quote. That was a television program you were in, is that right? Yes. Ms. Awas continues, quote, the trouble started when a security guard asked a group of people to leave the hotel and Depp allegedly then assaulted the guard. Telephones in the hotel lobby were also damaged in the incident. Depp was released after promising to appear in court, end quote. All right. Do you agree that you were arrested on suspicion of assault, as that article suggests? Yes. Could you go to tab 166, please? And my lord, that is probably in the next bundle of my lords. Judge, just a moment. At 166, I have a headline, Depp to pay for trashing room. Is that the right document? Yes. If my lord goes to the second page in that bundle, Mr. Depp, you too, please. We are now moving on to the age of 31. You were arrested in New York hotel room, which you had demolished. Quote, actor Johnny Depp, star of the movie Ben and June, agrees to pay nearly $10,000 to a New York hotel after he destroyed his room there, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office said on Tuesday. Depp, 31, had stayed overnight in the Mark Hotel in New York City with his girlfriend. A police spokeswoman said the actor was possibly intoxicated when he overturned tables, smashed lamps, and did other damage, but there was no known motive for the attack, end quote. Then it tells the price of the hotel, and it ends by saying, under the deal, Johnny Depp will pay $9,767, end quote. Do you remember this incident? Yes. Perhaps you could start by telling us, were you intoxicated at the time? No. Were you under the influence of drugs? No. Did you do $9,767 worth of damage? I do not know exactly the amount of the damages, but I made a few dents. Yes. Mr. Depp, forgive me. This was just the room that you destroyed, not the whole hotel, according to the report, right? It is a room. It is a room in a hotel. A few dents do not amount to nearly $10,000. What did you do to create damage of nearly $10,000? Well, the $10,000 was the bill that was given to me. Yes, there was, it was a long time ago, but there was a vase that had got turned over. There was, I slid a couch across the room. You slid or slipped? Slid. I'm sorry. So you did not damage it? You just moved the couch? Is that what you're saying? Yes, I just slid it across the room. That would not cause any damage at all unless perhaps you damaged the floor. No, I do not recall that it lasted very long, and I do not recall that it was. I did not rip things off the wall or anything like that. You see, the headline says Depp to pay for trashing room, right? Yes. I mean, you trash the room. You know what that means, do you not? Yes, I do. Trashing a room? Yes. It is not just breaking a vase and moving a couch a few feet across. No, no. The suggestion is that you trash the room. Judge interrupts. Do you agree with that as a description, Mr. Depp? Sure. Trashed is fine. I just think when I left the room, it was not unlivable. You just had to put a new vase in, maybe a cup or two. So your explanation for this is that you broke a vase and maybe a cup or two? Yes? I broke some things. I do not remember what they were. It was 1994. And mind you, at the time of the hearing, that's 26 years prior. This was an unusual incident, was it not? Or not? Yes. Yes, I mean, for the second time, you were arrested. Yes? Yes. You were arrested in circumstances where it was alleged that you had been violent. Yes. And it was quite a lot of money to most people. Was it maybe not very much to you? $10,000? No, I think that is quite a lot of money for anybody. Yes, and what I'm asking, you say you remember it. Yes. Why did you trash this room? It had been a particularly bad couple of days, and that day and evening turned out to be, let's just say, it was an apex of a very unpleasant time. I asked you a little earlier whether you considered that you had a problem with anger and anger management, and you said no. I did not think I have a problem. You still maintain that? Yes. So if you were not angry, no, I was angry. You were angry. Yes, but that does not mean I have an anger problem. Well, did you find it difficult to control your anger on this occasion? On that occasion, I chose to express my anger. As you can clearly see by the damaged hotel room, for the love of God, this Ms. Wass is relentless. Take it for what it's worth. Sorry, editor's note, I guess. Asterisk. Right. So, just so that we're speaking the same language, you would say you express your anger in a way that is possibly destructive. But does that mean you have an anger management problem? I'm sorry, that does not mean you have an anger management problem. What is the difference between us? What is that is the difference between us, excuse me. Judge interrupts. Mr. Depp, again, I'm sorry to remind you, but you are nodding your head, and I can see that, but you do need to speak a response. I'm sorry, I was waiting for her to finish. All right, I think Ms. Wass has now finished. So, what is the answer to her question? May I hear your question again? The question was, I repeated what you said, that you said you expressed yourself in a particular way. And I asked you whether I understood correctly that you express yourself through destructive behavior. Perhaps you can just answer that part of the question first. Do you agree that you express yourself through destructive behavior? I have at times in my life. Yes. Yes. And that is not the only time, and not by any means, was it? No, ma'am. And would you say that despite the fact that you express yourself by being destructive, you do not consider that you have an anger management problem? I also express myself by laughing, but I do not have a humor problem. You have a sense of humor, presumably, if you laugh. Anyway, we do not need to argue about semantics. You have agreed that when you are angry, you smash things up. Excuse me. I have agreed. I have agreed that when I was angry then, I smashed things up. Can you explain to us what it was on that occasion that made you so angry that you did $10,000 worth of damage to a simple hotel room? I had, at the time, I had a friend that had been a friend for a very long time, and he had, for lack of a better description, screwed me over, if you will. Right. And this made you angry? Yes, ma'am. And so you trashed the room? Yes. And your then girlfriend was with you? Yes. Did you consider at the time she might be rather frightened by that? She was in the bedroom, asleep. She slept through the whole thing, did she? Yes. All right. Let us carry on then. Let's fast forward to tab 171. Judge interrupts. Just a minute, Ms. Wass. Page 1042. There is another interview. Have you got 1042 at the bottom? Yes, I do. You were asked about the hotel incident. Do you remember? Do you see that this interview took place sometime later? Yes, I see. Judge interrupts. Sorry, help me, please. Ms. Wass, where's the reference to the 1042 to the hotel incident? At the very top, she responds. It says a voiceover. No one was laughing when Depp trashed the fancy hotel room after a spat with his girlfriend, causing nearly $10,000 worth of damage. What was that all about? This was the interview asking you the question. Was it not, Mr. Depp? Yes, ma'am. The suggestion of the interviewer was nothing to do with the friend who screwed you over. It was that you had a spat with your girlfriend. That is what he said, is it not? Yes, it is what he said. That was the assumption of the media at the time. Right. because it makes for better press, does it not? Rather than assaulting a human being, I assaulted a couch. Instead of putting this chap who is interviewing you, in fact, it is a woman who was interviewing you, right? Put the record straight. You went along with the suggestion that it was after a spat with your girlfriend. May I just her next to the other person? It says voiceovers. So this voiceover, this must be a TV program. Uh huh. Well, then it is not an interview, is it? There is a question. I will read it to you again. Quote, no one was laughing when Johnny Depp trashed a fancy hotel room after a spat with his girlfriend, causing $10,000 worth of damage. What was all that? End quote. So you're saying it was never put to you that it was about your girlfriend? It had been put out in the paper, in the press quite a lot, that it was an argument between Kate Moss and myself, which was not the case at all. It was not the truth, but the media machine had taken it already. So once the media machine had taken it over, did you ever think about correcting it? I did correct it. I have corrected it in other interviews. Yes. All right. So the question was, what was that all about? So you are being asked that question, are you not? How did this all happen? This trashing the hotel room, and your answer was it was about Dave, and I think you told us already. You have your bad days. You guys play some golf. Some guys, smash hotel rooms. That was your answer, right? That was my answer. But if this comes from a television show, then we are talking about being in two separate places. My interview, I'm sorry, your lordship, I just want to clarify this. This is does not read like a sit down interview because she is off camera at all times. So this looks like television. If it is television, I would love to see it. We have a transcript here. If you go back to F1037, what it says, the piece is called Johnny Depp, the Ultimate Outsider Profile of Johnny Depp, ABC News transcript, June 20th, 2003, Friday. Yes? Yes. This is a transcript of the television piece. Yes. Going back to 1042, the voiceover. So not what was said to you, but the voiceover on the television program. No one was laughing when Depp trashed a fancy hotel room after a spat with his then girlfriend model, causing $10,000 worth of damage. What was all that? That was the question that was asked of you. And you said it was a bad day. You have your bad days. Some guys play golf, some guys, trash hotel rooms. Those are your words, are they not? Yes, they are my words. Now, we have got to the bottom of that. Do you want to say whether you disagree with the words that are recorded and that were broadcast on the television? If your lordship would not mind, I would just like to clarify one thing about this body of interview which she is describing as an interview. Judge says yes. This is from ABC News. So Elizabeth Vargas, when she speaks, it says voiceover, and then it says Elizabeth Vargas off camera, and it cuts to me. So what I am trying to explain to you is that whatever interview they are using, whatever words of mine they are using, her segment was shot at a completely different time and probably a while after mine. So she could have said anything in the world and I had no control over it. If you understand, they took an interview with me and then they put Ms. Vargas as a voiceover off camera. We never did the interview together is what I am saying. So these are not direct questions to me from Elizabeth Vargas. What I'm interested in, Mr. Depp, is not actually what Ms. Elizabeth Vargas says at all. What I'm interested in, so you know, is your statement that you made there, which you agreed that you made. Yes, I did make that statement, but not in answer to the exact question that she is asking. The statement indicates that some guys go and play golf and get angry and they swing at a club at a golf course and you smash hotel rooms. That is what you're saying there. Yes. If it is bad day, Some people play golf. I will smash a hotel room, right? The answer that I gave then, I believe, was done with some semblance of humor, as it is a ridiculous notion that a grown man will attack a hotel room. It might be a ridiculous notion, but it was certainly what you were arrested for. Yes, it was what I did. Yes. Which is what you did. So ridiculous or not, it is what you did. It is ridiculous. Yes. That does not mean it did not happen. I just said that I did it. Okay, can you go to file 4, tab 107? Yes. Judge interrupts. You will find, Mr. Depp, there is not much room in the witness box, so it's probably useful to put that file away that is no longer needed. Now, Ms. Was, my file 4 starts with tab 109. Right, it must have gone back a tab. Sorry, what was the tab? Tab 107. Trial file 3, Mr. Depp. I have found 107 in tab 4. Yes, file 4. Yours must be like mine, but the most important thing is tab 4. As I say, I need patience. Will you go through it? Page. So tab 107, it should be 564 at the bottom. Judge, yes. Mr. Depp, the reason, just so that you know that I'm asking these questions, I'm suggesting to you as clearly as I can that you are the type of person when he becomes angry and or frustrated, expresses that through violent behavior, all right? That is why I'm asking you these questions. That is the relevance of them. Do you understand? I understand. So let us look at this. It is a transcript. It is a bit difficult to read, but let us put it in context. You made a film in 1998 with an actress called Ellen Barkin. Do you remember that? Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas? Yes, I do. Was it about the life of Hunter S. Thompson? It was a film based on the book Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. All right. Ms. Barking had some dealings with you. Can I ask you to start at F566? Yes. At the bottom left, second answer from the bottom, she explains the friendship went from a pure platonic friendship to a romantic one. Judge interrupts. Just a minute, please. I'm trying to navigate the document. Sorry, we are on page 566? Yes, and the internal pages seem to be numbered. So which? Page 11. Page 11. Have you got that, Mr. Depp? I do. Thank you. Line 20 in that transcript, Ms. Barkin is saying, quote, the friendship went from purely platonic to a romantic one, end quote. I see that, yes. Go over line 18 on internal page 12. Quote, I would see him 3 or 4 times a week, end quote. Yes, I see that, yes. Then over on page 16, turn over the page, so it's 567, internal page 16. Yes. She says you were loving, very demonstrative, seemed like people who took care of people around him. Yes? Yes, I see it. Then over the page to 568, she was asked, did you become aware that he drank in excess? End quote. The judge interrupts. Sorry, which internal page number now? Sorry, my fault. Page 17, internally, line 12. This is the question that Ms. Barkin was asked. Have you got that? Yes, I do. And then there are various objections from various lawyers. At the top of page 19, which is the bottom left, she says, quote, he was drunk all the time, a lot of the time, end quote. All right. And you said you were a red wine drinker at line 15, yes? Yes. Do you agree with that at about this time of your life? Well, yes, I was drinking red wine. I had given up spirits, so I was just drinking red wine. And when she said you were drunk most of the time or a lot of the time, when she qualifies that, would you agree with that? No. That is wrong? I would say that is quite a stretch. Quite a stretch? Go to page 20 at the bottom. Uh-huh. She was asked about illegal substances. Do you see that? Line 3, the same question with illegal substances. Yes, ma'am. The answer at page 9, that Ms. Barkin answering questions. That is Ms. Barkin answering the question. Hallucinogenics? Judge interrupts. I'm sorry, where are we now? Page 20, line 9 and 10. Thank you. What Ms. Barkin said, what she said about your consumption of illegal substances was hallucinogenics. What does that cover? Hallucinogenics, that could cover anything from lysergic acid, which is LSD, to mushrooms, psilocybin in mushrooms, that sort of thing. Was she right about that? No. So she has that wrong as well. Yes. You did not take LSD, you have told us already. No, I did not. What about mushrooms? Not at that time, no. You did not take mushrooms. Cocaine, she says? No, not at that time. She has also got that wrong. Marijuana? At that time, occasionally. So hardly any drugs at that time is what you are saying. Yes, I was working on a film. Does that stop you taking drugs? Yes, I would say there's no way to make it is just too much work. You never take controlled drugs during the course of making a film. I take the normal medications that my doctor has prescribed. I am not asking about that. I am talking about cocaine, ecstasy, marijuana. Never take any of those drugs during the course of a filming. I have at times smoked marijuana at work, and at times when you are on your 17th hour of the day, yes, I have taken cocaine, but occasionally, not as a regular. Well, so in fact, what Ms. Barkin says is not necessarily wrong, is it, when it comes to cocaine? Or are you saying it is wrong? It seems that Ms. Barkin is saying that I was engaging in the consumption of hallucinogenics, cocaine, and marijuana. As I said before to you, hallucinogenics, no, I was not taking any. Cocaine, I was not doing any cocaine at that time, and I have not for a long time. Marijuana, occasionally. Okay, let us go down to the same page, page 20 on F568, line 22. She is asked, with respect to any of that, hallucinogenics, cocaine, or marijuana, did he do any of that in your presence? That is the question. There is an objection by your lawyer. Then over the page, as you see on page F569 at the bottom, page 21 at the top. Do you have that? Yes, I do. Line 4, she says, all of the time, quote unquote. So she is asked whether you took hallucinogenics, cocaine, or marijuana in your presence. And her answer was, quote, all of the time, end quote. Yes. Can you explain any reason you know of why she might be lying about that? Are you asking? Yeah, objection, speculation. That's literally like the first thing that comes to my mind. Are you asking me to speculate? No. Do you know of any reason why, Ms. Barkin, you would end up on good terms or not? No, we did not end up on good terms. So are you suggesting that she has an evil motive to tell untruths about you? I am not suggesting anything because I cannot begin to guess. But I know that we did not end on good terms. She was interested in something that I was not. I wonder what that was. Has it been 2 hours already? Holy crap. I can't believe time has flown by. I'm having so much fun. This is like intoxicating stuff. And we're an hour 57 into the video. It feels like I've been here 10 minutes. I'm not even joking. Okay, where were we? Line 10. Quote, he was always drinking and or smoking a joint. End quote. Again, do you agree with that? No, I do not. No. At the bottom of line 21, page 21. Quote, did Mr. Depp's behavior change when he drank more and used more drugs? End quote. Yes, and we get her answer on page 22 on the right-hand side, line 5. Quote, he was not the same. He was high, end quote. That is pretty obvious. We are looking at page 21. 22. 22. Sorry, you are absolutely right. 22. Yes. Quote, not the same. He was high, end quote. Judge interrupts. The question, I think, is at internal page 21, lines 21 and 22. Now, did you ever observe Ms. Barkin, Mr. Depp's behavior change when he drank more or used more drugs? And Ms. Barkin seems to answer at internal page 22, line 5. He was not the same. He was high. Yes. Yes, I see that. May I, if it's all right? I'm not sure there's a question that has been posed here. There is not a question. I am just putting it in context so that we have an answer to that question. Because if we look at page 23 at the bottom, another question arises out of that, which I do want your help with. Please, Mr. Depp, do you see page 23 at the bottom? Yes, I do. There's a question at line 8. Did there come a time, Ms. Barkin, when Mr. Depp acted in a way that was out of control with you? Do you see that? I see that. Yes, I see that. Again, there's an objection to that question, but the witness answers at line 13. Quote, yes, Mr. Depp threw a wine bottle across the room, the hotel room, in one instance in Las Vegas while we were shooting Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. End quote. Yes? Yes, I see that. The suggestion I put to you is that you lost control, lost your temper on that occasion, and you threw a bottle when you were in a hotel room with Ms. Barkin. Like, objection, speculation. Jesus Christ. What the fuck? Anyway, back in character. I don't recall. You do not recall that happening? No, ma'am. If I may, Your Lordship, I just want to, when we went from page 21 to 22, the question on line 21, on page 21, the question is, now, did you ever observe, Ms. Barkin, Mr. Dev's behavior change when he drank more or used drugs? Line 24, Mr. Chu, misspelled, by the way, objection leading. 25, answer, I did not. Ms. Watts continues, yes, and she said on page 22 he was not the same, he was high. To put the whole thing in context, yes, I am agreeing with you. There is another answer. I don't know what I quote, I did not mean, end quote. Judge interrupts. I see the point, Mr. Depp. It is fair enough to draw attention to the fact that there was an answer by Ms. Barkin, prior to the passage that Ms. Was drew my attention to. So she's skipping around to make things out of context. Are you kidding me? This is stupid. Lawyers are trying to do this shit. Johnny Depp. Yes, sir. But now I think we have moved on to the passage on internal page 23. Yes. Did there come a time, Ms. Barkin, when Mr. Depp acted in a way that was out of control with you? And then there is an answer at lines 13 through 16. Yes. Ms. Was continues. About the throwing of the bottle, all right? Yes, ma'am. I will finish this passage and then you can give me your answer to what was going on then. Page 25. Yes. What prompted Mr. Depp to do that? Line 18. Do you see that? Yes, yes. Go to page 26. A fight was going on, quote unquote. Do you see that? Yes. Line 1? Yes. Between you and Mr. Depp, quote unquote. That was the question. No, she said. Question. Who was the fight between? Answer. Between Mr. Depp and his friends in the room, the assistants, end quote. And then she says, just so we put it all in context, quote, honestly, I can't remember, end quote. Yes. Then, lower down on page line 19, did the bottle hit anyone? Did the bottle hit anyone else? Did the bottle hit you? Answer, no. Question, did the bottle hit anyone else? Answer, no, it did not, end quote. Then she is asked how far she was away from the bottle. And she said when Mr. Depp threw the bottle, she said she was across the room. And she gives an order of size in the court where she was giving evidence about that. What she says at page 28, she is asked after Mr. Depp threw the bottle, did you say anything? She said no. Question, did you say anything? Answer, no. Question, did anyone else say anything? Answer, no. Question, did anyone else say anything? Answer, no. Now, this was a room that also had she calls them your assistants in, yes? I'm sorry, this was a room that, look at page 26, line 7. She said there was a fight going on between you and your friends, your assistants, or the assistant. Honestly, I do not remember, yes. So that is what she says. Your answer is that you do not remember? Judge interrupts. No, I think it is. This is Ms. Barkin's deposition, is it not? So it is Ms. Barkin saying, I do not remember, rather than Mr. Depp saying, I do not remember. Ms. Was, I understand. Referring back to Johnny. If I can summarize this, and correct me if you do not agree with this summary, Ms. Barkin is describing an incident in a hotel where you threw a bottle. It did not hit her. There were other people in the room. There was a fight going on. According to Ms. Barkin, between you and your friends, the assistants, she says. Yes? I see that she says that. Yes. She says that, and going down directly to page 28, she essentially says, nobody did anything apart from you throwing the bottle. Do you agree that that is the summary of what she says, or do you want to go through every single question and answer? No, that seems that that's what she's saying. All right. And that is characteristic of your assistants, people who work for you. They never step in, they never tell you off for bad behavior. They simply deal with the mess that you make. I would say that is incorrect. You would say that is incorrect? Have any of your assistants, just over the time that you were with Ms. Heard, ever reprimanded you about your behavior that you can remember? Well, reprimanded is a very strong word. The people that I work with, such as assistants for security, are not just hired hands. I do not think of them as my employees or someone who works for me. I think of them as people who work with me, and more, since we have all been together for quite a number of years. They're more like family. So they have never, ever backed off from approaching me with something if they have any concerns on any subject. All right. We will look at that when we come to particular incidents. Judge interrupts. Can I just understand your answer? Yes. Ms. Was asking you if your assistants had ever reprimanded you, and you commented that reprimand was a strong word. Yes, my lord. Have any of your assistants, in whatever word you choose, taken issue with your behavior? They have, yes. They have taken issue with, yes, my behavior on various subjects, but they do not. It is not a dressing down. It is more to do with, for example, if I was going through a period where I felt it was necessary to self medicate, which I suppose would I have called it since I was 11 years old. Ms. Was, just so that we're clear, self-medicating, are you talking about only prescription drugs or prescription as well as recreational drugs? I'm talking about if I was drinking to excess at any particular time, they would get worried about me and they would voice their concern. But it was never any screaming, yelling, anything like that. It was not like I was being spanked. It was a sit down, where they would just be expressing their concern for my health. So the example that Ms. Barkin uses of you throwing a bottle across the room in the direction where she was and nobody's saying anything, is that something that would happen with one of your assistants, or would your assistant say, "Look, Mr. Depp, Johnny, you really should not behave like this"? I can tell you unequivocally that Ms. Barkin's statements about what she believes happened is not at all what happened. Right. So she must be lying, because you could not possibly be mistaken about an incident of someone throwing a bottle across the room. I do not want to call anyone a liar, but I can tell you that that never happened. That incident never happened. Let us see what else she says about you. It is at the bottom of page 570, internal page 28, my lord. Yes. She was asked at line 19, quote, "What was your reaction to Mr. Depp throwing the bottle in your direction?" She said, quote, "I was not shocked," end quote. And the question was, quote, "Why were you not shocked?" And her answer was this, quote, "There is always an air of violence around him. He is a yeller. He is verbally abusive. All those things you can see." And then she goes on to expand on that. Are you now on internal page 29, Mr. Depp? At page, yes. F571, yes, ma'am. Line 14, that is part of it. Quote, "That is part of it. There was just a lot of yelling, end quote. Then at page 20, she says this, sorry, at 18, the question is, "And who did he yell at that you witnessed?" Her response, "His assistant, people who would work on a film, maybe in what he viewed as a lower capacity than he functions at. There was just a world of violence." I see that. All right. Then she talks about your jealousy. Do you regard yourself as somebody who was jealous within his relationships? Where do you see the jealousy? Right. Page 571, internal page 32, bottom right. Yes. "I went to go home." Sorry, it is line 23. Thank you. I went to go home. There was a big goodbye, crying, a lot of jealousy. Do not want to do this. Do not want to do that. And I never heard from him after that. End quote. Then she's asked, Ms. Barkin is about the word jealous at line 8 of page 33, internal page 33. My lord, page F572 at the bottom, you just referenced, used the word jealous. How did that come up? What did he say that indicated to you that he was jealous? Her answer, he's just a jealous man, controlling. Where are you going? Who are you going with? What did you do last night? And then she gives an example at line 18. I had a scratch on my back once. I had a scratch on my back once that got him very, very angry because he insisted it came from me having sex with a person who was not him. Then, just to finish, since you asked about the jealousy, over on page 34 at the top, so to the right of the page we have just looked at line 14, and when in these instances, when Mr. Depp became jealous or controlling, did he also become angry? Yeah, and demanding. Answer. I see that, yes. So the account she gives of you, and I will not come to what you say about it in a moment. The account she gives is somebody who is angry, taking a lot of alcohol and drugs, throwing missiles, or throwing a missile on one occasion, and somebody who is very controlling and jealous, and somebody whose assistants do not intervene at all. That is a summary I'm going to suggest of what her account is about you. Now that we have looked at the transcript, that is what she says in essence, is it not? That is what she says. Now, is your turn to tell us what you say about that. Untrue. Untrue? Yes. I would say that the description of me on smaller page 29, where that is a part of it, line 14, page 20, that is part of it. Quote, it was just a lot of yelling, a lot of yelling. Did Mr. Depp yell at you? Not that I can recall. Who did he yell at that you witnessed? He would yell at his assistants, people he worked on the film with, maybe what he would view as a lower capacity than he functions at. There is just a world of violence. I can swear that that is the furthest description of me and how I communicate with the people I work with. I never do I speak down to anyone. Never would I think of anyone as lesser than me. Excuse me. Film is a collaborative effort. I do not believe in the idea of stars and fame and all that. I do not read the magazines. I do not do any of that business. But I believe that if you spoke with anyone that I have worked with on that film, besides Ms. Barkin, who is clearly holding a grudge and was speaking for Ms. Heard, as she was asked to do. She was subpoenaed, I think. She was ordered. You're not suggesting that she was asked questions. Let me try and deal with this. Let me try and deal with this. I'm not going to stop you saying anything, which she just did. This was an earlier hearing in an American case that you are bringing against Ms. Heard. This was part of the American proceeding? Yes. And Ms. Barkin was a witness? She was not a witness to us. She gave a deposition to the court. Yes, she did. Which we have just been looking at. I think you said she bears a grudge. I would say it is pretty clear in the testimony. There are two options, are there not? Because, of course, she is talking about the events in the late 1990s. Yes. She was giving a deposition in 2019, so 20 years later? Yes. She's either bearing a very serious grudge over a very long period of time. Yes. Or she's telling the truth. Then I would say she's bearing the grudge for a very, very long time. All right. Can we go to another tab, please? Tab 170. Judge interrupts. Just a minute, Mr. Depp. 170 is in my volume 5. Me as well. I have given up trying to say which of your volumes it is in, but that is roughly where it is. I have located it exactly in folder 5. Thank you very much. All right, Ms. Was continues. Thank you. The first page should have been F1034. Please go to F1035. Yes. This is an article slightly after the Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas filming, which was in 1998. Is that correct? Fear and Loathing was 1997, I believe. Okay, so 2 years afterwards, it is a newspaper report that was made on the 1st of February, 1999. Yes. The headline is Johnny Depp fends off paparazzi. Yes. Under the body, it says, quote, Johnny Depp was back to his bad boy ways when he chased off photographers with a piece of wood outside a trendy restaurant, police said. The police held the actor for almost, I can imagine what he had to go through with these paparazzis chasing him around and stalking him. Good golly. I would probably do the same thing. Maybe, I don't know. The police held the actor for almost 4 hours after the fracas on Sunday at Mirabel, where he had dined with French actress Vanessa Paradis. Newspapers reported. Monday's newspapers carried photos of Depp clutching the wood, being questioned by police, and being taken into custody. I'm just getting a mental image of Johnny just clutching a piece of wood and fending off paparazzi just to get him off his back. Oh, God. Whew, that is hilarious. I'm sorry. A tabloid newspaper reported that Depp flipped out and started screaming obscenities when photographers tried to take... Oh, when photographers tried to take his picture. Really? They're just trying to take a picture. Why is Johnny flipping out? Like, that is not... That is a hell of a way to phrase... there's a hell of a way to phrase a thing. I swear to God. We're just trying to take your photo, man. Like, that is not what paparazzi do. They don't just come up and just try to take a photo. They steal photos in the most inconvenient places. Come on. Chi-Town native, thanks for the super chat. Justice for Johnny. Too bad they can't overturn that judge's bias judgment. The turd was ridiculously lucky over there. I don't disagree one bit. All right, let's continue. Then your publicist said Johnny Depp is a person who guards his privacy. He has asked photographers to abstain from photographing him. Unfortunately, they persisted intentionally and provoked him. All right? Yes. So you are provoked quite easily, are you not? Not necessarily. No. Well, this was about somebody just trying to take your photograph. It's a little more than that, but essentially you are correct. Right. So you did not want your photograph taken? If I may, allow me to explain. I was having dinner with my then very pregnant girlfriend. We were expecting our first child. I was in London making a film called Sleepy Hollow. Friends of ours flew in from the United States. We took them out to dinner to celebrate. They were the godparents to celebrate the pregnancy and the birth of the baby. When I paid the bill, they said, there is a pretty good gaggle of paparazzi outside. What do you want to do? What I thought best, because I was not prepared to allow the birth of my firstborn child or birth of our firstborn child to be turned into someone else's circus. I thought it was disrespectful. And all they were looking for was a photograph of myself with a pregnant Ms. Paradis, the mother of my children. So what I did was I devised a ruse, which was I would go down to a loading door and distract them while Ms. Paradis and my other friends, the friends who just came into town, would get in the car and therefore would not get a photograph of her and her belly, and certainly not get a photograph together of us and the belly. I did not want something so sacred to be treated as fodder for newspapers. That is it. Let us have a look at this. So some photographers whose job is to take photographs of famous people wanted to take a photograph of you, famous person, as you were leaving a public place. They wanted to take a photograph of me and Vanessa in a public place. in a public place. Yes. You told us how you felt this was an invasion of your privacy. I thought it was an invasion of something very sacred, and I was not going to let it be a circus. Did you consider it proportionate to pick up a piece of wood and threaten people with it, screaming obscenities at the photographers, as it says in this report, flipping out as it says in this report? Is that a proportionate response? Judge interrupts. Well, there is a premise in that question, Ms. Wass, which is perhaps better dealt with by the prior question. Did Mr. Depp wield a piece of wood at the photographers? Yes, Mr. Depp, when you were arrested, did you have a piece of wood when you were questioned by police, as it says here? Yes, ma'am. How did that piece of wood get into your hands? As I said before, I was trying to distract the paparazzi, which I did so that Vanessa was not photographed. They came down by where I was to the loading door. I had my hand on the handle. The inside was pushed and they were pulling on it. Their hands were coming in, trying to pull the door open. And I suppose because it is a loading door on the ground, there was a plank of wood, a sort of a 2x2, about this long, 15, maybe 12 inches. And they were trying to pull the door open. And there were about 14, 50, holy shit, 14, 15 photographers. And I picked up the plank of wood, and whoever's hand was there, I smacked it. Oh, you actually assaulted someone as well. I hit their hand. Yes, I did. That is an assault. Yes, it is. You were not acting in self defense. Well, there are 14 men trying to get into a door at you. There is some degree of unpleasant feeling. All right. My question is, now that I hope, my lord, I have laid the foundation for the question. Judge says yes. Did you, Mr. Depp, consider that it was proportionate to not only pick up a weapon, but wield a weapon and assault a member of the paparazzi with this weapon as a result of the fact that you simply did not want a photograph of you and your girlfriend? Well, as I said, I was not prepared to allow them to. I think I have made my point on yes, the sacredness of what I was protecting. You also have to really take into consideration, because there are many layers to every moment in life, that the paparazzi were being quite rude. They were yelling obscenities at me. They were quite aggressive as they were trying to pull this door open, and I'm holding it with my arms. I picked up the wood. Yes, you have explained that, to make them stop. Yes. Then I walked out the door, and I very, very simply explained to them, I am not saying this is just pause a moment, says the judge. Mr. Depp, this is not part of the Thomas More building, so you do not need to be concerned. Okay. Oh, there was a further pause for some court announcement at the time. Um, Judge continues, Ms. Wass, I do not know if there was, excuse me, Ms. Wass, I do not know if there is a convenient time to stop. I have nearly finished this topic, and it might be easier. I'm in my lord's hands. Judge, no. Finish the topic, please. Ms. Wass continues. Okay, so the paper describes you as screaming obscenities. I think we were exchanging obscenities. Yes. Obscenities. Cat calls. Yes. There was a confrontation. Yes. Being reminded of this incident, do you think that you have a problem with anger management? No, ma'am. My lord, that would be a convenient moment. Judge. Okay, now, Mr. Sherborne, over lunch, would that be a convenient time for you to take your instructions on the sixth and seventh witness statements of I fear not. I need to actually read it first. All right. That is why I asked the question that I did. I am very grateful. So perhaps then we could say that you will do that at the end of today's hearing. That is what I was going to suggest. All right. Now, Mr. Depp, you are in the middle of giving your evidence, says the judge. I will say this to you every time we take a break. You are not to talk to anybody about your evidence until it is concluded. There is a qualification to that, which I have discussed already with Mr. Sherborne, but it does not apply over the lunch break. And I will tell you when it does apply. Do you understand that you must not talk about your evidence to anybody until it is concluded? That includes your own lawyers and anybody else who might be in the building who you might encounter over lunchtime. Do you understand? I do indeed, my lord. Thank you. Then we will resume, please, at 2:05. Okay. Well, that gives us a pace of how these transcripts are going to go, right? So they start at like 9 or 10. Then they do testimony for about 3 hours, which took us about, I'd say, just slightly over 2, including the introduction. It's about, I probably was able to shave off 45 minutes by speaking faster than they would probably normally speak. I thought I would be able to finish the full day, but if we do the full day, like no kidding, it's still going to be, because if they finish at like 4:30 after lunch, they come back at 2:05. So that's another 2.5 hours. So that would take another 2 hours probably of actual video. So this video is going to be like 4.5 hours long. I don't want to do that. So change of plans. We're going to pause here. So this is going to take like 32 videos probably. Holy crap. This is way bigger than I thought. I mean, I knew it was going to be big. I just didn't know it was going to be this big. But that's good. I mean, more content, I suppose. Plus my voice is already getting a little raspy. You guys are awesome. I love you guys. 808 Fee says, Larry, if the law firm ever fails, you got a solid career in reading audiobooks. I'm just trying to get into character, you know. It's hard to like change your voice so often, but like I said, it's already getting a little, but I'll train my vocal cords a little bit over the course of this thing. By the time we get to like day 5, it's going to be smooth sailing, I'm sure, because I don't remember the last time I used my vocal cord. Maybe actually a year ago, more than a year ago, when I was reading the briefs. That was when my vocal cords really got a chance to strain. So actually, this is better. This is better. I like the fact that we can do like each video is going to be like day 1 morning, day 1 afternoon, and then like day 2 morning, day 2 afternoon, and there's 16 of those, so that's 32. Audra D took an almost 3. You took a bath for the entire time of this? That's good for you. Can't wait to hear my interpretation of Amber. So, okay, I think it's very important with transcripts as opposed to like briefs. Briefs are like kind of dry, you know. Briefs are just words on a piece of paper, and this is like people. This is actual people speaking and talking. And I'm trying to give it life, because otherwise, if I'm reading it like this, you know, it's like, all right, now, Mr. Depp, you are in the middle of giving your evidence. I will say this to you every time we have a break. You are not to talk to anybody. I mean, you would die. You would literally shut off and be like, you just die, you know, listening to that. I'm doing my best to try and like breathe life into the words, and especially during the conference. Like, I love these confrontational moments between Ms. Wasp. I'm sorry, Ms. Was. I swear, I want to say Ms. Wasp, because like in my head she's like a little and Mr. Depp, and then you said yeah, and then you said yeah, and do you disagree, and do you agree, and like I'm trying to give her as much character as I can. And then the judges, I'm trying to be as neutral as possible. And then Johnny, of course, the soft spoken. So we're going to keep this momentum. we're gonna keep it going. I don't know if I'm gonna do a live tomorrow. I'm gonna try. We'll see. I legitimately blocked off 2 hours for this, so this is almost working out perfectly. 2.5 solid. I will take it. But yeah, this was fun. This was great. There was somebody who wanted to do the voice of Amber. I think it was. Was it Danny? Danny N Direct. I have a feeling I may end up doing this whole thing solo. I really do think I'm going to be able to do this whole thing solo. It'll be easier. It'll be faster and easier because at the end of the day, my goal is to create content for you all. So, and if we have more people, it gets chaotic and schedules and that. So, all right, we'll try and do this again tomorrow. If not, till next time. I promise it won't be a month until the next time you see me because it's been a while. But anyway, thank you all for joining, and I will see you all very shortly as we'll continue this saga. Bye bye.